Okay, hi. I see somebody's watching, so that's great. Um, Feel free to send me your name if I know you. Um, we're going to do a class today on quotes from the Rebbe, and we're broadcasting live from Spot. My sound guy is not here now, so I'm using my computer, which is a lot older. It doesn't have the greatest quality, so I apologize if it's not looking that great. But let's learn this together. So Gemara tells us that in actual fact, there are 7 books of the Torah, because the verse by He ben Soya is in its own book. So this week's parsha, we have really a very remarkable situation where it's actually divided into 3 books. So even though we know there are 5 books of the Torah, there are actually 7 books of the Torah, because Vayhi ben Soya is a book in its own right. The famous Vayhi ben Soya, we say Vayhi ben Soya, Arai vayem mashakuma, Adonai v'yafusu eivecha v'yanusu misanecha mipanecha ki mitzion teitzei Yisrael u'davar Adonai mirushalayim baruch shenasanto hoira le'amo Yisrael v'kidruhu shosai. So this is actually an independent book of the Torah. So if that's a book of the Torah, what it means is that the Torah actually is split, at least the book of Bamidbar is split into 3. It's before Vayhi ben Soya, after Vayhi ben Soya, and Vayhi ben Soya itself is a book. So that means the Torah has 7 books, interestingly enough. The command to light the menorah is a fundamental lesson, because of course there are 7 branches of the menorah. Which is about our fundamental mission in life, namely to light up our soul and our body. So this is a very important idea. The Rebbe here is discussing our fundamental mission in life, which is to light up our soul and our body. Because the body itself is basically like a little animal. I want this, I want that. It's not lit, it's not happy. It's in a state of desire. That's why people are not happy, because they're always desiring. I did get this, I didn't get this, I wanted this, I didn't want this. But if you go beyond desire and say, I am a light, I am a candle, I'm shining light, I'm here to shine light. We all have light. Even a little baby, people will see a little baby, they'll smile, they'll love the baby. So the truth of the matter is that light is a beautiful, beautiful concept. And I'm just going to try to send this URL to people that are maybe interested. So light, of course, is a beautiful, beautiful concept. And therefore, the child that is kind of a happy little child, they may not need to do anything, but they are filled with light. You know, the other day I had an occasion, I visited a situation that's very unfortunate for people that have physical disabilities. And this one person was so filled with light, such a beautiful, beautiful soul. I actually regret that I haven't gone back. But the point is that when I actually think about this person, you know, you could think, oh, wow, this person, maybe he's, I don't know, maybe a little mentally challenged, this or that. But he wasn't mentally challenged. He was physically challenged. Mentally, he was much better off than I am. He was so happy. I mean, here's a person that's basically bedridden, and yet such a happy face. And my friend came and he played music for him, and he was literally afterwards he says, "Thank you so much." And so what this tells us is that in life, it's 90%. I mean, obviously there are things in life that we need. We need our basics. We need, things to feel safe. I mean, you can't be happy if you're pulsating anxiety. But 90% of the time, it's actually our attitude. Can you not be upset about what you're upset about? I said this to a friend of mine, a psychiatrist, and he agreed with me. probably one of the top psychiatrists in the world. I said, life is about learning the word no. Because if the word no bothers you, then how are you going to be happy in life? Because so many times, most of the time in life, it's going to be no. You're not going to have the word yes most of the time in life. So if you can't handle the word no, you've got a big problem. So the point of life is to be able to handle the word no. One of the greatest, I've said this before, but one of the greatest experiences in my life is learning how not to get my way for whatever reason. But I've learned how not to get my way. And when you can actually handle not getting your way, if something happens, you didn't get your way, then you can be pretty much half the battle is won. Now, the other half the battle is to do things that are meaningful and important. You can't feel good, as I said the other day, unless you're doing good. If you can learn to not get your way, then you're already in a pretty good way. So we know the Rebbe is telling us that our mission in this world is to be a light. Basically, to light our own self, because the body part of us is always about, oh, I wanted this, I didn't want this, etc., etc. The soul part of us doesn't have these problems. So we're meant to literally be a soul person, a light person. And when you have that, you can really, really, really go a lot higher than you would be otherwise. And fundamentally speaking, there's a very beautiful poem. I'll see if I can find it. Nelson Mandela read this poem when he became the president of South Africa. South Africa have a big refuah shlema. It's amazing how, maybe it's in other places, but having lived in South Africa, you can take normal African, actually, when they're poor, they're actually quite humble, but you put them in government and they become absolutely insane. And in any event, he seems to have been the last sane leader, and he was only there for 2 years. But he read this poem, and it's from a Jewish woman, a very, very, very special Jewish woman. And let me just, Mariana Williamson. It goes like this. Let me just find it. 1 second. I'm going to read it to you. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You're a child of God. Your playing small doesn't serve the world. There's nothing enlightening about shrinking so other people won't feel insecure about you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. As we're liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. Okay? So this is a very, very beautiful teaching. And it's really, in a way, like what the Rebbe taught us, which is to be light, to shine light. And when a person is light, they have this ability to want what's good for others. And our fear of not shining is usually because, we realize maybe even subconsciously that somebody's, kind of pathetic ego needs to shine, and we're afraid of outshining their ego. We like have a sense that their ego will be humbled if we shine our light, and therefore we are kind of, like stepping on eggshells just so that they shouldn't, be humiliated by our shining. But that's not the truth, because the truth is every candle in this world only adds more light. The world needs as much light as it can get. So by you shining your light, by you realizing you're actually a solid piece of gold, part of the menorah, you are a special light that the world needs, and that's why you're here. Everything is really a light that the world needs. If God didn't need it, it wouldn't be here. Said the story before, but the Emperor Franz Joseph said to Beethoven, after he heard a symphony, they said all this kind of all this many notes. So he said, oh, it's beautiful, but why so many notes? So he said to him, tell me which note I should take out. Every note is important. And so in the end of the day, each one of us is a note in the symphony of the universe. And so we need to play our notes, because the world can only have music if we play the note that we are. So this is the idea of the 7 books of the Torah. This is the idea of the 7 candles of the menorah that were all shining a beautiful light. Now the mission was for Aaron to light the menorah till it burned on its own. Likewise, the people we teach Torah and mitzvahs to should become so alight that their flames is independent. So we know that there's a mitzvah in the Torah which is to light ad shetehesh laheves olam aleh. We have to light this candle until the candle is going up on its own. If the candle doesn't go up on its own, then it is not okay. You didn't do the mitzvah. You can't light the candle and let it flicker and go out. And the same thing is our mission in this world is, of course, to light up other people. So you can say, listen, I'm a Lubavitcher Chassid. I'm a beautiful person. I light up other people. But the question is, if you were to leave them, would they still be a lit candle? If you leave someone, are they still going to be okay? Because your obligation is to light someone up to the extent that they don't need you anymore, that they have enough of a connection to themselves, to God, that they can shine without you. And this is what's called toifeach al manas latfiach. If you want to know what's really wet, is something that can make something else wet, and that thing has enough moisture to give to someone else. So if you're a parent, your goal is not to just give to your child and the child will always be at home and need you. Your goal is to empower your child, to give to your child enough love and education and direction that that child one day doesn't need you. That child will be a leader. And that's the job of a rabbi, a rebbetzin, of every Jew and every person. That when you have inner strength, when you have inner light, to be able to light up another soul, particularly somebody that needs that light, to the extent that that person will be a flame without you. That person can shine his light to the world. And that's really what the Rebbe did. He invested so much. There's a beautiful story with the Baal Shem Tov. The Baal Shem Tov started his operation, and there was in that time something called the Vad Arba Arts, a council of 4 lands. In this council of 4 lands, they came and they wanted to close him down. Who's this new kid on the block that everybody's flocking to? In fact, in a certain sense, he closed them down because he became so much the leader of the Jewish world that their leadership really wasn't necessary anymore. So, I heard recently from Rabbi Yossi Jacobson, within 50 years of the Baal Shem Tov's teachings are passing, he had affected 10 million European Jews, which most of the Jews of Europe had already been radically transformed to the positive. It's unbelievable. And where did it come from? It came from his soul, a soul that was aligned to truth. So the Baal Shem Tov is here bringing Mashiach to the world. And these people come and say, Rabbi, we want to shut you down. He says, we can't. Well, let's debate it. And he showed them that he's right. And they said, we still want to shut you down. He says, well, I don't think so. And they said, how do you have such strength? You're a yeshiva. You have 60 people. There are other yeshivas with thousands of people. So he gave them an example of a farmer. He says, there are 2 types of farmers. One farmer spreads lots of seeds, and he hopes for the best. The other farmer, he nourishes each seed, a couple of seeds, but every seed he makes sure the tree, the sapling is well nourished. So what happens is the first farmer may have a produce, but there's a lot of worms and this and that. And the seeds themselves are not that great. But the next farmer, every single tree is beautiful. And each of the seeds are beautiful. So you think about what the Baal Shem Tov did by investing so much in everyone, that each and every person became the Rebbes, they became leaders, and they had so much to invest into others. So it pays at times to put a lot of investment even into one individual. That one individual will then become a light to everyone else. So moving along, we have to light our souls with Torah and mitzvahs. When we light up our souls with Torah and mitzvahs, we will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the world with Torah and mitzvahs. We will then light up the as we spoke about before. Now, the mission was for Aaron to light the light till it burned on its own. Likewise, the people we teach Torah and mitzvahs to should become so light that their flame is independent. Now, the goal is to be a large, not a small flame. In other words, a person should be passionate about God. If you are a fire, it could be a small fire, or you could be a big fire. So our goal is to be a big fire, a fire that is filled with light, that this light is going to light up the world. This is our goal. Hence, are surrounded with the light of Torah and mitzvahs. The person should consistently be ever increasing. Now, this is a very, very important concept. We've spoken about this many times, but I think I'll hopefully, with Hashem's help, do justice to the concept now. We find an interesting thing by a flame. A flame is always pulsating. It's always flickering. It's going up and down all the time. We find the Jewish people are compared to the moon. It gets bigger and smaller, bigger and smaller. The nations of the world are compared to the sun. The English Empire was literally in charge of, I think, most of the world. It was the empire that the sun never set on until it set, and it never rose again. Whether it was Rome, whether it was Babylonia, whether it was the Persian Empire, whether it was the brief stint of other empires, whether it was Russia, all these different things, including America. These are empires that rose, and when they will fall, and they will never come back again. I mean, I'm an American, and I love America, but it's clear to me that America is on the down, and it's never going to be it's not going to be a world power again. Israel is the next world power. Through Mashiach, it will be a moral world power, a world power that the whole world will come. You won't have to rule by the iron fist, which is how most powers had powers, through influence, whether it's monetarily or through military might. But rather, the world will be so enamored with Mashiach and so in love with Mashiach that everybody will naturally come and he will be the ruler. Just to bring an example, Lahavdalel of Abdullah, not to compare it, but just to show that this is possible. In the olden days, the Pope basically was the real ruler of all Catholic countries, right? The kings were subservient to the Pope. So there was a sense of religious duty, and everybody was part of the religion, and the person who was in charge of the religion was making the rules for all the countries. In a similar sense, there will be a religious leader, and everybody will be enamored and more than enamored, dedicated to this leader. And so the whole world will be giving their authority, not out of fear, but out of desire to the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, to the Rebbe, King Mashiach, that he should be the one to tell them what to do. And they will happily listen and do whatever he says that they should do. Now, the idea here is, just remember how I got onto this. The idea here is the idea of a flame. And it's very important to understand this. Something that's living is pulsating. Anything that is not pulsating is not alive. So we all have hearts. It's beating all the time. Every living thing basically has a heart. It's beating all the time. Even the plants, I don't know exactly how it works, but there's some kind of pulse that's going on. And even the physical things, you can see it is called Kirlian photography. It's literally going in and out, besides in and out of existence, but it literally has like a aura around it that's pulsating. It's like a star going up and down all the time. Why is this important? Because at times, I don't want to speak about the negative, so I'll just speak about the positive, but something that's alive, it's breathing, it's passionate. And so there's a part of us like a flame that's trying to yearn for our source. And there's a part of us like the wick and the candle that's pulling us back down to this world. So the flame is going up, it's being pulled back down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And that's the circle of life. Now, in an unhealthy setting, this creates a tension between heaven and earth, spirituality and physicality. And that's really what many people are dealing with, this tension between the two. But the truth is, they're not separate entities, they're the same thing. Because when you go down, it's in order to go up, and when you go up, it's in order to come down. So if you could just remember your role in this world is to have inspiration and perspiration, inspiration and perspiration, inspiration and perspiration. So then everything you do is part of the same process of being a Jew, of pulsating God into reality. So that's what we're doing. If you have to resuscitate, give breath. So you do breath, 1, 2, 3, breath, 1, 2, 3, breath. Same thing as we're pulsating God into reality. We're getting it from God and we're bringing it in. We've said this many times, but the word of Adam, man, is Aleph Dam, God and blood. Avir is or Yud. Yeah, the light, this is actually my own, so it may not be true, but the light of God in this world, right? So we're bringing it down. So a neshama is from the word neshima, to breathe. You breathe your soul in, you breathe your divinity in, and then that blood, that oxygenated blood gives you life. So we're bringing life in and we're putting it out, bringing it in, putting it out. And that's the secret of life, and that's how it's going to be forever. So the idea is that the brain, in fact, is dead. It's a funny thing to think about, but the brain is not as alive as the heart. The brain has a sense of curiosity to it, but it is not real life. Where is our passion in life? It's in our heart. Where do you love? Or even, God forbid, where do you hate? Where do you have passion? It's not the brain. It's not a rational thing. It's an irrational thing. So the brain is very important, but it's not the soul itself. The soul is more in the heart than it is in the brain. Now, think about a computer. A computer is a brain, or AI and all this stuff, but there's no passion to it. You can go to your computer, you get all the information. You go to AI, get all the information. But it doesn't have a passion. It's not like, you moron, what kind of a stupid question is that? Or, I'm so proud of you. You're such an amazing person. Look what you did. It doesn't have love. It doesn't have anger or fear. It just is. It is. So the brain, in a way, is a dead thing. And so the soul is not the brain. So when you see a society, whether it's secular universities that are all about the brain, or a society that's all about the image, this is a dead thing. This is a statue. Now, I've got to say, one of my favorite artists is Michelangelo. If anybody's seen Michelangelo, amazing artist. I saw his David in Florence, Italy. This guy is a master of masters. He takes a statue. You look at that. I can see it in my mind's eye. It's like looking at a real person. It's a statue. Unbelievable. But it's dead. It's not real. And he's never going to be real. He's not going to go through ups. He's not going to go through downs. It's a beautiful painting, and that's all it is. Life has ups and downs. We know the Baal Shem Tov said, the Alter Rebbe says that your ups and downs, ups are God's music. God is playing music. Your fluctuations, your ups and downs are the music. Okay, let's continue. So we learn here two things. Number one, we should be passionate, like a flame. We're all flames. We should be passionate about God, Torah, and mitzvahs. And number two, the person should be consistently increasing this ability to always go higher. Not only more of the same, but a whole new level is through humility. Why? Because this is the big trap of life. Whenever you have something that you could be proud about, oh, wow, I did this thing. So now your brain is like, whoa, look at me, look how special I am. Or your ego, I should say, so look at me, look how special I am. So then anything that's a pleasure, we kind of become addicted to. So we become addicted to this identity or this personality that we have. But if you're humble and you realize that you are just getting energy from God, there's a famous story that a person once came to the Rebbe Rashab. He says, Rebbe, what is a chassid? So Rebbe Rashab said a chassid is a lanternship, a lamplighter. In the olden days, they had these lamps in the streets. You took this long stick and you lit it. So in other words, a chassid is a person that lights up other people's souls. So he says, what if the person is in the desert? So he said, go to the desert. What if the person's on an island? He says, you take off your clothing, you could jump into the ocean, you get to the island, you light them up. So he says, Rebbe, I don't see any lamps. I don't see anybody worthy that I should dedicate my life to lighting them up. So Rebbe says to him, that's because you're not a chassid. You're not a lamplighter. When you become humble, you'll see many lamps. In life, if a person's arrogant, they can only see arrogance. They look at other arrogant people and they're like, wow, that's impressive. So you get a whole world of fakers faking for fakers, pretenders pretending for pretenders, ego looking up to ego. And it's all false. And then I remember I was once in Vienna, in Austria. Hitler, Yamach Shemai V'Zichra, may he burn for eternity. So he came from Austria. And there's such arrogance there. Now, I'm an American, And so I'm like, what are you guys being arrogant about? And it's true in a way. What do you have to be arrogant about? It's like a natural arrogance. In fact, it says that the German tribe, in a way, is Amalek. And Amalek is chutzpah b'lei toga, arrogance for no good reason. Just they're born arrogant. And they say that about themselves. I mean, which stupid people could think that they're a super race and they have the right to dominate other people? That was the entire concept of Hitler. We're a super race that should dominate others. Insanity. But they bought into it. So it means that they have this kind of concept. You couldn't sell that to Jewish people. Jewish people are humble. They would never buy into that. So what are we finding here? We're finding that humility allows a person to look at the greatness of the other. An arrogant person can only see somebody else that's arrogant and think, oh, wow, that's cool. But a humble person should be very careful because that could be a trap. Because sometimes we have that little sense of arrogance within us that wants to. That's really how man felt, because Adam Rishon looked at arrogance. Mother Aklippus, I like to say he looked at a Litvish yeshiva, and he became arrogant because it's all about arrogance. And we have this part in us that's attracted to it. But a person who's humble and understands that arrogance is actually reprehensible, it's repulsive. So therefore, he actually looks at humility like the Rebbe loved children. He looks at somebody that's humble and says, wow. So he says, Anovim Yeshuar, it's the humble will inherit the earth, because the Hashem, who's humble, he loves humility. He loves love. He loves that which is sweet and beautiful, not which is pretentious and domineering. Okay. And so when we get to that level, we are always able to grow. We have the space, the inner space to always be able to grow higher and higher. The concept of always ascending is both in regards to oneself and others. So this idea of always ascending is in regards to ourselves and to everyone else. In regards to oneself, we must ascend in our Torah. So eventually, though we know the Torah by heart, we eventually continue to grow in our study, hence deeper depth, as well in our ability to innovate Torah ideas. So when you know Torah, you can never get complacent. I'm a rabbi. I don't know that much, but I know more than most. I mean, at least a lot. So I can't be complacent and say, oh, wow, I know so much Torah. Relative to what there is to know, I know nothing. Baal Shem Tov says that when I go on a high level, I realize that all the Torah I know, I haven't even scratched the letter of the Torah. I know nothing. And so even if you do know whatever books there are by heart, you have a photographic memory, as some people have, but still you can always go deeper. You can always learn more. Even tzaddikim could learn their own Torah because it came from the Shekhinah. They could go deeper. Furthermore, you could innovate in Torah. So you're looking at an endless ocean. Imagine a person has, imagine the ocean is clear, crystal clear water. So you take a cup. You say, wow, I have the ocean. No, you have a cup. And imagine the ocean is infinite. That's what you have in the Torah. This also applies to mitzvahs. We do our mitzvahs with greater emphasis. So you can say, wow, it's such a great guy. He keeps Shabbos. No, you can always keep Shabbos in a deeper way. You can do a mitzvah in a deeper way. And finally, when we teach others, it should be that they get to the point where they're able to stand on their own 2 feet. So we want others to stand on their own 2 feet, that they too become a source of light for the world. In terms of standing on our own feet, there are 2 ways. The first, that we repeat a habit so it becomes natural. The second is that we understand that we are in essence God, even our body, for we know that the true being, the reality, is God, and doing Torah mitzvahs is just an extension of self. So the idea here is like this, that first of all, there are 2 ways that you can become kind of, if you want to call it, self-sufficient in something. One is practice. You want to learn how to ride a bike, you learn how to ride a bike. The other is, if you saw Star Wars, he eventually takes off the technology, and he goes with the force. As Yoda, the great Kabbalist, says, let the force be with you. And as I like to say, is let yourself be with the force. Understand that you are the force, that God is you. And once you understand this, you transform yourself inherently. Because it's not you that is doing what you are doing. It is God that is doing what it's doing. And if that is the case, it's all good. It's all going in the right direction. It's only when you dichotomize and you split yourself between God and yourself. So now you've got a problem because God wants one thing and maybe your body wants another. But if you are God, then obviously in a rational way that you're identified with your soul and your soul is running you, not that your body and addictions are running you. But if you are God, that your soul is running you, so then there are no more problems and no more issues. You are a flame of light. You just got to be yourself. Fine. And this applies even to your body. You say, my soul is God, but what about my body? But what do you think your body is? It's energy. It's divine energy. It's all God. And certainly Torah mitzvahs is an extension of yourself because this is you telling yourself what to do. It's like your higher self telling your lower self, this is what to do. This is you. When we do a mitzvah, what occurs is we bring godliness. So now that object itself, such as a milah, which Avram said by the bris, it becomes an object that is pulsating divinity. So before we said that everything pulsates. So generally speaking, we have three types of levels in this world. We have this phone. Now this phone, as I heard from Tuvia Bolton, he says the internet is the ultimate klipas noiga. It could be used for the good. It could be used for the bad. Is it good or bad? It depends what you use it for. Let's say you use it for the good. You bring the good. It's not that you elevate. You bring God into this phone. This phone could be the holiest thing in the world. I could be using it to listening to Torah, etc., using it for mitzvahs. In fact, I've said this before, but the Rebbe predicted the internet. And he said that God is revealing it in order to have the ability to give charity to anyone in the world, as well as the ability to give advice to anyone in the world. It's the most amazing tool. As a rabbi, I've had a synagogue and people come, you're lucky if you get 5 people, 10 people to class, you're unbelievable. Here I am, I'm talking, we have a couple people in a class. So, but if you have, I have other channels, I have a website, I have this, not bragging, but I must reach probably at least 1,000 people a day. That's unbelievable. So you're going from being limited to much greater. And in fact, some of the stuff is recorded as this class. It will be on the internet. Who knows? Maybe somebody will discover it one day. In 1,000 years, it could inspire someone. It's unbelievable what's going on here. So we have a tremendous ability to pulsate energy. In fact, the Morale of Prague says something very interesting is that God uses our klippa, our instincts, maybe they're instincts even for very negative things, to build up the world. It says if not for greed, nobody would get married or build a house. But eventually now you have a home and now you have children. Now you can infuse it. I remember going to Vegas. I always wanted to see it. You see it in a clip or this or that. It looks so big. I realized it's just like a overgrown Legoland. But one day it'll be used for the good. There'll be, 1 million people coming to hear the Rebbe teach Torah. Where are you going to house them all? Obviously, hopefully you'll be here in Israel. But I'm saying everything will be transformed to the good. Every physical thing in the universe will be used by Hashem for the good. Okay. Furthermore, the object itself becomes a holy object. So you're a holy person. Think about how many mitzvahs you have done. Think about how holy your body is. When the Jews came to Poland, they said, Poilin, here we shall stay overnight until Mashiach. In other words, a Jew has to know that he is only overstaying temporarily in exile. His real place is in Jerusalem in the Holy Temple. Where do we belong? We are actually princes and princesses. We belong in the Beis HaMikdash with Hashem, with the tzaddik. That's where we belong. Happens to be we had to go to the world, spread light. It's like a candle. Where does the flame belong? Belongs in the source of fire in God himself. Happens to be it was sent to spread light, but eventually the light will be in the Beis HaMikdash and all the Gentiles will come to the Beis HaMikdash. The world already transformed the world and this will manifest. We're dedicating our class to the coming of Mashiach now and the destruction of all true evil now and the construction of everything that is good now. This is all the more so as we are in the final generation of exile, first generation of redemption. As previous Rebbe said, our buttons are polished. We are waiting. We're like soldiers ready to greet Mashiach. All we need to do is stand at attention to greet Mashiach. Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? If anybody online would like to ask questions, we got 5 thumbs up. Thank you so much to everybody for your thumbs up, especially your heart. I love you too. Any questions? Okay, so if that's the case, we'll conclude. And Hashem should bless us all that we should truly see an end to all terrorism and evil, particular stuff, particularly spreading in the Muslim community of jihad and horrific principles. And we should have only the principles of the Torah, the principles of love and justice and kindness in the world. L'chaim v'levracha.